Hi, everyone. Welcome back. It's me again. Today on my Empower Hour podcast, we have Jennifer Nakamura, a powerhouse lawyer, woman, friend, extraordinaire who is taking life into her own hands and has literally, before my very eyes, transformed from this budding flower to this blooming, gorgeous bouquet and is continuing to grow and bloom. And so I thought it was so important to share her journey and how she's continuing to grow and the steps she took to her empowerment. Hi, friend.
Hello.
Happy to have you here.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
The pop of pink is emanating energy, and I appreciate that.
This literally, I saw this in Express,
Oh,
your advice, and I saw the pop of color, and I figured, like you said, it's the new me, and I wanted to really show the new me. So I've got this hot pink, and like you said, it just makes me feel so powerful, and I feel amazing in my new suit.
I'm going to copy you. Now that is a compliment.
Thank you.
Okay. No right or wrong answer. 3 adjectives to describe yourself. Go. Any of them, 3 that come to mind. They're not right, not wrong. Just go.
Control freak, super organized, and always overthinking and stressed out and anxietied out.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, okay, Jennifer, we're going to unpack those things. Wonderful. So, okay, I've not done this before, but I'm going to ask you for 3 adjectives that describe you in a positive, that you're proud of yourself about. Go.
Confident, smart, and empathetic.
Ooh, and you are. You really are. Okay, good. So, Jennifer, tell me just a little bit about your upbringing. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? That whole background thing, so people get to know who you are.
So I grew up in the South Bay. I was born in Gardena. It's a large Japanese population. But when I was like 5, my parents wanted to go to a better school district. So we went to Torrance, and I, grew up in the beach cities, super fun. I mean, honestly, no problems at all. My mom and dad probably spoiled me way too much, sheltered me way too much. And I went to college. We moved to Cerritos. Everything was great up until about 25. And then my dad got ill, lost his job. And then I was, in law school. And then my mom got sick. And unfortunately, we lost her shortly after. And now I'm here. And now I passed the bar, and I met you, and your Empower Hour has literally changed my life in the better. And so I'm here, and I'm probably the happiest I've ever been.
Oh, so good. Well, you are wearing that pink, so there's no way you're not. Okay, why did you go to law school?
I always have adored the truth, and I've always sought the truth, and I feel that it's a really hard thing to find and discover. And so that's been my passion, is to always work and find the truth. And so that was my passion and reason for going to law school. And obviously, like everyone says, to help others who can't help themselves. And I really feel that with estate planning and the probates, especially during that difficult time when someone doesn't even know about the probate process and they're going through probably the hardest time of their life, like I did with my mom. You don't know what's going on or what to do. And I think that's why I love what I do, is because I can walk them through that dark time. And I know from experience going through that dark time. So it's just really powerful to share my experience and be able to walk someone through those horrible times and make it a better time for them.
So for people listening who don't know what the word probate is, because I didn't know what it was until law school, and I still probably really don't know what it is.
Most don't.
So for anyone who doesn't really understand law and all the legalese, what does probate mean, and what do you do in that specialty?
So the way that I explain it is, upon your passing, there's 2 ways in which you're going to distribute your assets or your estate. One way is your way, I call it, with the trust, and the other way is California's way with probate. It's a court process, and if you don't have a trust in place and your assets are over $184,500, then they are subject to probate, and we'll have to file a petition, we'll have to get a court hearing, we'll have to get a probate referee appointed.
So like family has no say whatsoever about your assets once you pass, and if you don't have a trust or a will, correct?
True. So a will's basically a ticket to probate. A will's only going to dictate who is the administrator. Yes. So a lot of
people don't know that.
Misconceptions about wills. They think, oh, I'll just get a will and I won't have to deal with probate. That's a misconception. It's basically a 100% ticket to probate.
Wow.
And it just puts the people in order to be appointed as the administrator in line. That's all really a will is going to do for you.
Okay, so most people know a will is a document, generally a document you make while you're alive.
Correct.
That will, we think, distribute your assets, your belongings according to what this document says.
Correct.
But you're saying that is not what people should have.
No, it's not. So a will, at least in my trust packages, I have an all-inclusive trust. I break them up into lifetime documents and upon death documents. Your upon death documents are going to be your trust, your will, and your assignment. So they all talk together. So your will's basically a pour-over will, and it distributes your personal assets. So your jewelry, your clothing, collectibles, coin collections, those types of things. And then whatever the trust doesn't distribute, usually the main asset's a home or a large amount of cash, and whatever isn't dictated in the trust, the will is going to pour into the trust, and it basically tells, we can have a memorandum with the will to write specific gifts. So like if you wanted to leave your wedding ring to Valentina, you could write Gina's wedding ring and then put it to Valentina and initial that. And that's how your will is going to distribute personal belongings.
Into the trust?
Through the trust.
Through the trust will protect the will so that the will doesn't have to go through probate.
Essentially, yes.
And why don't people want to go to probate? Why would you warn against that?
Because
what does probate mean again? Just again, because people don't know what this stuff is.
So it means that you have an estate that is at or above 184,500 cumulative. So it doesn't have to be one asset. It
doesn't have to be all cash.
No, it can be, maybe you have a piece of land in Florida and that's 50,000, and you have a home here in California. We all know that's way over 184.5. So once we marshal the total assets, if it's over that amount, 184.5, then you're going to have to petition the court for a probate. And that's
if you die without any documents.
Exactly. Well, even if you pass away, like we just said, with a will.
Correct.
And no trust. So if they have to do that, I have 3 parades of horribles. Number 1, it's really expensive. You're going to have to hire an attorney. I ask for $5,000 up front, and all the judges in the courts here, if there's any real estate involved in the estate, they're requiring a bond. Oh. So depending on the amount of the estate or the size of the estate, the bond will change. Yes. And so the administrator has to have good credit. It's a very long, time-consuming process, and I always tell people, number 1, it's going to be expensive. 1, the first retainer. 2nd is going to be the attorney's fees at the end. And like I said, it's going to be about 2 to 3 years now because of COVID backlog. Yeah.
Still?
I know. They're still behind. The county assessor's office is literally like 2 years behind. So even if I have a clearance letter from the franchise tax board, I'm not getting those on time because they're so behind.
Can't with government agencies.
So at the end, for example, I just had 2 sisters sell a property in Cerritos for $850,000, and they had to write a check to my office for $20,500 in addition to the $5,000 retainer up front and the additional bond, because the courts, my clients were upset. They're like, Jen, you said this was going to be done by 2022. And I said, hey, to be fair, I got all the paperwork done, but I don't control the court's calendar, and I don't control when they put hearings on calendar. So they had to renew the bond because the hearing was 4 months out. And the other added part is if you don't have a good relationship with your family, then probate's more than likely going to make that a worse relationship. And I have 2 brothers right now that they were, they grew up from different dads. And
as your clients, you have 2 clients.
They're my clients right now. And it's totally night and day from the two sisters. The two sisters were super on board, working together, no arguing. But these brothers are what I'm talking about, the parade of horribles, because they came to me in the beginning as brothers together. And now the other one has retained counsel and they won't even talk to each other. And there was a birthday party this past weekend, and one of the brothers wanted the little nephew to be there, and now the little nephew couldn't be part of the birthday. And so that's why I tell people, just do your trust. A lot of people are like, oh, well, it's a lot of money. It's $3,000.
So walk me through that. So right now, your one piece of advice, not that you're giving legal advice at all,
I'm not,
because we are not doing that. But hypothetically speaking, if somebody had a question about, and I know you probably hear this, well, I don't have that much money. I don't need a trust. I'm not a millionaire, billionaire, and it is too expensive. I can just do a will. What would you tell them right this second?
I always say that you get what you pay for.
Ooh.
And
in everything. And that includes death.
Yes.
And
yes.
Your family has to deal with all this fallout.
And like you always say, we're not getting out of this alive.
No.
None of us are making it out of this alive, and we are all going to pay taxes.
So you are actually an attorney that everyone absolutely does need in their life. Really?
Yes. It's
our
serious.
kind of law. I mean, I hope you don't need us, because I don't want you to be injured. Right. But if you do get injured and hurt, call me.
Call ZA lawyers.
But guess what? Spoiler alert, we're all going to die. Don't freak out. It's happening. Be smart. Be prepared. Own it. Be educated.
Right.
So what do?
I would advise you that, if you want to protect your assets and not pay over $20,000 off the top of your estate, to just pay the $3,000. It's an uncomfortable conversation for a lot of people. But like you and I just pointed out, this is certain.
And it protects your family.
Right. And it's just, think of it as a way to organize things for your beneficiaries and your loved ones after you pass away. I know obviously you're not going to be here. Like when we're talking about our death, we're not going to be here. So like the thought is, well, who cares? But if you have kids, which you do, and most people do, they don't want to leave their kids with a burden. So a lot of people will plan for their funeral instructions and they have their plots already done. They have everything paid for. And it just makes that horrible time, I've been there, it makes that horrible time just so much easier, and actually allows them to have a celebration of life and not be so sad and distraught with, oh my God, what do we do? Right. How do we do this? What do we, like, what papers, where do we go?
And you're not in the right state that you're in right now. Like right now, you can have the conversation and it's not comfortable.
That's right.
But you're not mourning.
Exactly.
Throw mourning on top of it and you've just been flipped upside down.
I mean, again, I am that person. So my parents didn't have real estate. They didn't have large amounts of cash, but I worked in an estate planning firm for 12 years, and I understood the importance of having, because it's not just your trust and your will and your assignment, it's your healthcare directives and your uniform power of attorney for finances when you're unable or unwilling to do it yourself. So when my mom got really sick, I remember hospice coming into my house, and as an only child, like you're saying, the mourning, I think that all of us attorneys, we have this same personality characteristic when, even though if we're upset or we're going through something, I think that like power just kicks in.
It snaps on.
And all I did was I was like, okay, I need to go get the trust binder and I need to give them the powers of attorney, and I just have to handle this for her. And in the moment, you're just doing it. You just go. But I think that if it wasn't created already in that time,
can you imagine?
I would have been having to find a notary. I would have.
How do you even know where to start?
Right. And that's as I am also a notary, and I have a lot of people call me out during that time, and they're like, "Oh, my mom is in a healthcare facility. Can you come out and do the trust?" And it's too late at that time because we have to protect capacity. We want to make sure that the person is of sound mind and it's their intent to create the trust themselves.
Not when they're all in hospital full of drugs.
Exactly. And I also took care of my mom medically. So when we left the hospital, I was the one doing all the morphine administration and all that. And so when people call me and say, oh, well, she's kind of lucid, but she's on hospice, I'm like, no, I understand that you think she's okay, because there were moments when my mom seemed okay.
Right.
But no, they're on pain medication for months at a time.
Sure.
So you're not, I decline those. I decline those
Smart.
findings.
Yeah, it's
so
smart.
I won't do it.
Right. Now, a lot of people, I think also, a lot of people listening probably feel like, well, I'm still relatively young. Because we all are forever young, of
Right.
course, because you're as old as you want to feel. We know that.
Forever 21.
Forever. Actually, I don't want to be 21 anymore.
What do you want to be? Yeah, you're right. 21 was kind of
Messy.
very messy.
Like, I
That's
didn't know where I was.
Yeah.
I don't know which way was up or down.
I wouldn't say I know now.
Yeah, we do. We know more. We're experienced.
But definitely very childlike at 21. Yeah. Even my trust now for when, we have to define when someone's an adult and when someone can actually be given their distribution, right? So my default has been 25.
Right.
But the last 2 trusts that I've been doing, they're like, no, we want it at 30.
Yeah.
Because we remember being 25 and we didn't know how to manage our finances at 25.
I thought
Did
I was
you?
grown, but I was listening to like Destiny's Child in a crop top.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
same.
probably still do that though.
But you're a lot wiser now.
Wiser and snatched. But to the trust point,
Yes.
we have a trust for the kids. And absolutely, we went through this and the kids don't get their first distribution until they're 30.
Yep. And why do you think 30?
Because you need your 20s. You need your 20s to make your mistakes, get it out of your system, be a jackass if you need to be.
Agreed.
Make all the mistakes, realize
Agreed.
the value of money, understand the concept of money. And then I even put a clause in there that if they decide not to be gainfully employed and if they decide to be a drug addict and or just like a fucking horrible person, they get nothing.
Yes.
Because that is not who we are. You do not get the reward of money.
Yes.
And I'm actually kind of burning through all the money anyway, so I don't know how much is going to be left.
Good job, Gina. Good job.
Can't take it with you.
Exactly. That's what I tell my clients. Some of them are like, well, I don't know if I want to go to Vegas because
I know.
And I'm like,
the answer is yes.
That's what I said. I'm
right
like,
now.
I'm like, are you going to take all the money with you in
But
the grave?
Kids might need it. Your kids have a brain and opportunity. Put them to work.
I said, you've earned all this money your whole entire life. You've worked your whole entire life. Life is to live. Obviously you need some money to save.
Obviously to live and be smart.
But at the end of the day, I told her, I'm like, why would you do? I said what you said. I'm like, why would you do that? Go. And she was like, oh my God, I love you. And I think she needed that little push.
But a lot of people think that way. More people think that way than this way.
And that's why I
gotta be careful. You gotta be safe. You gotta save. And obviously, yes, be reasonable. Don't be irresponsible.
Right.
Obviously. But live. You can't take it with you.
Yeah. This lady was retired. She came out of retirement. She had a bunch of money. And I was like, you're just going to stay at home? Why?
No.
There's a world out there.
No.
If you want to go to Vegas, go see it. Go do it.
No, good. I'm glad you said that. Okay, so back to the question about being forever 21, but not. I would actually be, I love being 40. I'm almost 43. I love this.
You look
This is
amazing.
so good. I feel amazing. I am amazing. Thank you. Someone tells you, oh, I know, but I don't need to worry about it yet, but it is something I'm going to think about. Tell me about that.
So I bring in, I don't do primarily personal injury, but I do a little bit of personal injury. And I'm like, we're all driving around on the road every day.
Sheesh.
And I would say, you and I share this kind of fear of flying, right? I know you're getting over it, but I'm a terrible flyer. And I always tell them, I'm like, you have more of a chance dying on the road than getting in an airplane.
Oh.
And so if you're just driving around every day, how do you know that you're going to make it home from work? You don't.
You're not going to get T-boned.
And I also I share my mom's story. I always wondered, why was my mom gone so early? Why this, why that? I'm always questioning it. And I think that I've come to this conclusion that her story is for me to share with others. And so when people are like, well, I'm young, and I'm like, well, My mom was young.
How old is she?
55.
Oh, man.
And she was going, she's like you. I mean, she worked at Hawaiian Gardens Casino as the assistant director of food and beverage. She would go in at like 7, get up at 4, go on her walk before, get my coffee for me before work, go to work, come home, make dinner for my dad who worked graveyard. And she would sleep like 3 or 4 hours, and I didn't think she was going anywhere. She was the strongest woman I ever knew.
Yeah.
And so one night I came home from my civil procedure final exam. You know how Civ Pro is. And she couldn't raise her arms. And the next day it was
just like out of nowhere?
Out of nowhere. It was like, she thought that she had just hurt herself at work moving a screen or something, those Asian screens.
Yeah.
And the next day she was crying to my dad and they said stage 4 lung cancer, and in 9 months she was gone, and it's like, what? I'm glad that her trust was done before all that happened, because when that happens, you're not in the mode to do your trust. You're fighting for your life essentially, and every day was trying to have that faith and trying to have that positive mindset for her. And so I would say to people that think that they're young is, you don't know what's going to happen. Right. We're here today, but we don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes.
Right. And that's it. And that's how we have to think.
And, if they have less than 185, basically, you can do a small estates petition. So if it's under that amount and you don't have a trust, you can just do a 13-100 small estates petition.
What is that?
And it's just a simple document. It's basically going to outline, the institution where the funds are at. It's going to outline the address and the approximate value. And you can just get that notarized and submit it to the bank or whatever life insurance institution it is. Mm-hmm. And they'll distribute the funds without a trust or probate.
So it doesn't need to go to probate. They're not going to have to pay a ton of money.
Right.
It's kind of
like that getting around probate and trust law.
Can people do that one on their own, or you would still advise a lawyer help them?
I would definitely advise a lawyer help them.
I've never even heard of that, and I wouldn't even know where to find that.
I mean, banks, I'm a notary, so I know some banks will provide them, but most of them won't. So you do have to go find an attorney.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't, so the takeaways are, it does not matter how much money you have.
Right.
I mean, obviously, depending on the document, 100,000, what was it?
184.5.
184.5. If you have below that, there is a document for you.
Yep.
If you have above that at any amount, there is a whole other document, court process. And also, number 2, you're not as young as you think.
You're not
as, hope you're healthy as you think, but anything can happen. And wouldn't it be wonderful if you could leave your family without the stress and headache and fear and insecurity, and they have to find a note, they have to go to the bank, they have to find these documents we're talking about.
And that's another thing. I always tell my clients, tell your beneficiaries where your originals are, keep them in a safe place. I also, part of my service is I will love to sit down with your family at the end of it and have a conversation and let them know what to do upon your passing and where to go. They don't have to come back to me.
Sure.
But this is kind of like what will happen, and these documents are here, and this is where you'll find them.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And this is something people don't talk about enough. Again, it's uncomfortable. You don't want to talk about your demise and not being here anymore.
A lot of that is, a lot of people don't come in because they don't want to talk about death. They don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
But
they know in the back of their mind, they're like, I know I need to do that. It's on their list of to-dos, but it's number 83.
Some people just won't. Like I have a married woman. I talked to her last night. We reviewed her trust, and she was saying how her ex-husband, she would always tell him, we got to do this. We got to do this. And she's like, he just thinks he's immortal, that he's never going to die.
And she's going to be in a bad position if he dies before her and she has nothing set.
I mean, they're divorced. So, I mean, it doesn't really
different.
affect.
But if they were married.
Right.
If they were married. I mean, yeah. Well, what do people say? Well, I'm the spouse, so when they die, I'll inherit everything anyway.
Such a misconception.
Let's talk about that, because I know there's a lot of, especially, and again, these are generalities, but generally it's women who don't know about the finances and the estate planning in their family. And it's usually the men that handle it. Mm-hmm. And usually, statistically, men predecease women.
True.
That's just a statistic.
It's true.
Women too often are then left and exposed and vulnerable and have no idea.
100%.
So what do you advise these women? And I just got married. We're so young. Or we're in our middle of our life together, or we're both retired, but we've still never touched retirement trusts or estate planning. What would you advise women to, how can they educate themselves?
I would say definitely before you get married. And if you already are married, I think that's a really important conversation to have with your potential spouse is how are we going to handle finances? And if you're not involved, then ask to be involved. And if
they say no, then you have bigger problems.
Exactly. Then maybe we need to get a divorce.
Then maybe we need to look at who we are partnered with and head for the hills.
Yeah, it's really important. I mean, even like their life insurance or their pensions. I have a probate right now where an old lady, she had a trust, but she did a really good job saving. And she had like $250,000 in stocks.
Okay.
And she only left her husband on the beneficiary form. But her husband, like you just said, passed away first. So what happened? Now it's in probate.
Oh, no.
Because
she never
added another beneficiary. So in addition to trust law, you have to think about what kind of asset are we talking about? Because some things are distributed through the trust, but other accounts like 401ks, pensions, IRAs, those are distributed through what's called a beneficiary form. And that institution's going to give them those beneficiary forms. So my advice is like, for example, with you, if you wanted 50-50 between Sophia and Valentina, then, line 1, Sophia dash 50%. Right. Line 2, Valentina.
It's that easy.
Dash 50%. But here's what I always tell my clients is number 3 as your catch-all is to put your trust.
Oh.
Because if those two, and I'm hoping that Sophia and Valentina live a long, long, long life.
Yes.
But God forbid.
Of course.
They were, traveling to Spain or whatever. And they didn't and they didn't come back.
Yeah. But they will.
But they will.
But I know what you're saying.
Say, if they're gone,
of course.
Then what? So I always say put your trust as a catch-all because even if they're gone and they can't find anyone, that's
still protected.
It's going to go through the trust.
And the trust protects it from probate.
Exactly. And it basically plans forever and ever and ever because it's going to say, and this is part of the intake is, okay, well, if Sophia and Valentina aren't here, do you want it to go to their descendants?
Oh, right.
Or do you want it to go lapse back into the estate and go to different people?
Because they may end up having children. This is not going to happen in the next year or two. Like this is setting you up for years.
And
forever. What if they have kids and you forget about it and you go on with life as we do, but at least there's a catch-all that my grandkids will be protected.
Exactly.
They don't have to deal with this.
Exactly.
Brilliant. This is such a vital conversation and I'm so happy you're having it with your hair down in a hot pink because that translates and it's just power. Oh gosh. Okay. So now I'm excited to pivot a little bit and talk about your professional trajectory, how you started, because this is significant for many reasons, mostly because a lot of people listening are probably in a stage in their life where they feel stuck, they feel unhappy, they feel they need to put more work in, or if I could just add 2 or 3 more years, if I just tough it out, things have been promised to me, all these things. I know your story is going to resonate for people and they don't have to be lawyers. It can be any industry. Sharing your journey and the thought process to getting from point A to point B is significant. So maybe you can inspire them. Tell me how you started after law school.
So after law school, I was already working in a firm for about, like I said, like 10 years. And it's that saying that you always talk about is comfort. Comfort's where you die. And I was kind of like, well, they're saying that I'm going to be partners. So I just kept going after that carrot stick. Like,
were you happy?
No, I was not happy. I mean,
you knew you were not happy.
I knew I wasn't happy. I mean, my mom passed away in 2018 in the middle of my law school career. I had to take some time off. Obviously, it's not a good time when your mom's leaving this earth. And I went back to law school and my school was shutting down. Argosy was shutting down. It was COVID. I wasn't sure what to do. So at that point, it's kind of like survival mode. You just do what you have to do. I was applying to different law schools in case it did shut down. I was doing the Zoom from home to finish law school. I finished law school in the pandemic and I took the bar in the living room.
What?
One of the first bar takers to take
Wow.
the bar in the living room. Failed because the gardener
Sure.
showed up, told the gardener not to show up. And I live in Cerritos, very suburban. So the only thing I could think was, whose gardener is that? Is it my gardener? I want to fire
And
my
the
gardener.
clock is ticking.
Called my dad crying after I knew I failed, but it's fine. I knew I wasn't happy. I would tell my dad during that period, you know, why is it that whole pity party for myself? Why is this happening to me? Why are all my friends already past the bar? You know, why are they already being lawyers? Like, I just want to move on. I just want to do this. I blah 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 blah. And back then I had that victim mentality, right? Like, I just was like, why is this happening to me? It's not fair. And I think my mom, from wherever she is, I know she's here. I don't know where she's at, but she's here. And I knew she was saying, just stop it. Just get up, because crying and feeling sorry for yourself isn't going to get you anywhere. So I called the library during the pandemic and I was like, please let me come study. I can't do this. Yeah. Because it was strict. They wouldn't let people come to the library. So you had to be on a RSVP list.
Wow.
And every morning I would say, Donna, can I come? Donna, can I come? And for 2 months, I drove for 45 minutes to the library, was in my seat by 8 a.m. And I just kept telling myself, if you don't pass this, you're going to just continue being unhappy. You're going to sit in this same house, in the same firm, in the same position. If you don't pass this, you're not going to move on.
Oh.
And so every day I would just push as hard as I could. And luckily I passed the bar. I was I was doing some trust with my firm. Mm-hmm. And then I met you on a yacht. And
I love. Where did you meet me again?
I met you on a yacht at a yacht party.
You're not surprised.
And you said to me, oh, you're a new lawyer, you can work for my husband. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what?
I said that?
Yeah.
Sounds like me.
And I was like, oh, sorry.
Oh, because you said you were doing personal injury, right?
Yes.
You're like, I want to get in personal injury. And I'm like, oh, yeah, my husband does that. Okay.
Yes. And I told you, I was like, oh, well, I work at a firm and they're like my dad's. And you stopped me right away and you were like, no, they're not.
And I
was like, oh my God, what? Who is this person? And you were like, because if they were your dads, then you wouldn't be talking to me right now and you would already be a partner. And I was like, oh, I feel so attacked.
You listening?
Yeah. And so
you felt attacked?
I felt so
Why?
attacked because, you know, you said that and I knew in my gut that you're right.
I'm always right.
And so I started following you and I started watching your Instagram stories, and you always talk about empowerment and intentional living and making the life that you want to live. And I think that before, like you said, was I happy, and what was my story to my career? And I think that by meeting you, and I'm not trying to, make this podcast anything, I'm being completely 100% honest. When you said that, it just changed my outlook and my thought process of life. I was like, well, I'm not living intentionally. Huh. I'm just sitting here in this law firm hoping that things get better. But you're right. If these people were my dads, why am I not a partner? And so we talked about it and you said, well, put it in writing. And so I went to the table and I said, okay, we need a writing. And so they said, okay, we'll do it. Give us no longer. It'll take no longer than 3 months.
Oof. You're like, actually, I have it right here. You can sign.
Right. And
excuses.
Right. And so I asked them, okay, what's the time frame? I wanted a specific date. They gave me that loosey-goosey answer. And in that time, from the time I asked for it to actually when it expired, one of them made comments like, well, I'm not going to get rich off you. And that was really hurtful, but
it's a blessing in disguise though. Thank
right.
God he said that.
And like, I just let it, roll off my back. And I was like, you got to figure out what you're going to do before you just jump ship. So I kept working. I kept doing trust. I actually networked, and I was bringing in all my own clients. And so I said, well, when is the writing coming? And he said, Jennifer, we don't want to talk about this. And
I told you they were going to do that.
You did. And he actually went further and said, or questioned, how many, did you really work 52 hours? And in that moment, I think Gina.
And you had been with them how many years?
12 years. I think what you, like your mindset, your intentional leaving, the empowerment, all of it. I just told him, you know what? I'll give you back the 52 hours.
Wow.
And I won't,
Savage.
And I won't work here anymore. You don't have to worry about any hours. And I'm done.
Good girl.
And I called my dad and I said, Daddy, what do you think about this? Like, what do you think? And he said, Jennifer, you were supposed to be a partner and now they're just insulting you. I think it's time to go.
Oh.
And my dad's Japanese. He doesn't say much. And so when my dad said that, I got on the computer. I wrote a professional, very kind email saying, thank you for this time.
Beautiful.
I really appreciate everything you've done for me, but I'm putting in my 2 weeks. And even after that, every event I've gone to, every person I've met that has already known me, they're like, Jen, what are you doing? Why do you look so good? What's different about you? And I'm like, well, I'm happy now because like you said, I was just living because
a zombie.
It was safe.
Yeah.
It was comfortable.
Yeah.
I got my little check every 2 weeks. It was down the road and they were nice.
It was good enough.
It was good enough.
You should have been grateful to have that, Jen.
Right. And so when I started bringing in my own clients and I was like, oh, wow, like people really like me and they trust me and I love working with these people. I told them I'm bringing in my own clients. Why can't we have this agreement that we talked about? Yes. And they had a good deal. Like you said, they had a great deal going for themselves. And so I just left. I started my own firm and I am not going to say it is, all glitz and glam.
Oh, it's not. It's
every day
hard, man.
You told me.
I know.
I told you. I said, Gina, I did this, or I talked to you about the name, and you're like, why aren't you just doing things? And I was like, she's right. Why am I not just doing things? And so now my work philosophy is go for it. If it doesn't work, like you say, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's been really tough, but so rewarding. And my overall happiness level is just so, I can't compare it to where I was 2 years ago.
So looking back 2 years ago, because this is the crux of the conversation for people out there listening who are in a similar situation. It's not that bad. You have a paycheck. Be lucky with what you have. Yep. It could be worse. This is what we convince ourselves of. Yep. It could be worse. Maybe there's some passive aggressiveness going on from the higher ups. But, I'm just lucky. I'm lucky to have a job. I should be grateful. Considering where I came from, I should be grateful.
I used to say that too. I used to say that too.
All of it. And convincing yourself that you're happy-ish and just getting through life with blinders on like a zombie and just wake up, go to work, go to sleep. Wake up, go to work, go to sleep. Ugh, that is a fucking nightmare of my life.
It is a nightmare. And I think that...
Were you scared?
Super scared.
Why?
Because it's the unknowable. It's not knowing what's going to happen. I told you earlier, I'm like a control freak. I need to know that it's going to work out. It's going to pan out. Everything's going to be okay. But you don't know that.
No.
We don't have a crystal ball. Right. So like you say, I think you told me this a few weeks ago, but what about the things that could go right?
Ooh. And I was just going to say, of course it's going to work out. Like, why wouldn't it work out?
And that's, I think, what most people, like you say, society teaches us so much with everything to kind of have that like insecure feeling about ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so empowering literally about your entire social media platform is that all of us, not just women, but all of us should have confidence, and we shouldn't be in that negative trajectory where, oh, well, what if it doesn't work out? Or, oh, this and oh, that and this, all these negatives.
We all have lived there.
But what about that positive? But what about what could go right? So when I get down, and I'm not going to sugarcoat things, every day it's a work in progress. It's a journey.
Yeah.
So I have to remind myself when I get down on myself, when something goes wrong, like when my printer's fighting with me and I have a trust in like 30 minutes.
Always the printer.
It's the printer. I say, Jennifer, it's okay. One day, what if things go really right?
This is fine.
And it's fine. Everything's fine.
Jeff Bezos literally probably dealt with this too. Broken printers.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you took a leap of faith, and you trusted yourself only.
I did.
And again, I want to touch on something that I hear a lot I get a lot of feedback. People thank me because of your message, because of your message. Thank you. Because of you. I did this because of you. And what do I say immediately, Jen?
You always say it's not me. It's not me. Thank yourself.
Why do I say that?
Because you say that it's me. I made the decision.
Did I make the decision for you?
No. I would say that you actually at least led me to the water.
I just gave you my advice. I did nothing. Literally, it's like you turn the TV on, you heard some noise from the TV, and that sparked your flame, and you did it. You heard the final passive-aggressive insult. You saw the writing on the wall, and you stopped making excuses for it. You made an excuse. Well, they'll get it to me next month. Maybe they need more time. Well, they've been really good to me, and they're really kind, and I don't want to hurt.
No.
Meanwhile, you're withering inside.
Enough's enough.
Enough's enough. You wrote that letter. You jumped. You bought a fucking printer that doesn't work. Who cares? Now you know not ever to buy that again. And you learn.
And there were times, after I made that decision that I obviously had to have meetings with the partners and wind up everything. And there were moments when they were like, are you sure you want to do this?
Oh.
Are you sure?
And you're like, I know nothing. They're so much smarter than me. They've done this forever. I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm like sitting in their law office. I'm like, oh my God, I don't have a law office. Where am I going to work? What am I going to do? But I think, again, that's kind of the, common characteristic of all of us lawyers is that when I have to do something, I don't even know like how I do it, but I just turn on
survival mode,
right? And I literally remember driving around frantically Cerritos and calling because I'm really close with the Cerritos chamber, and I'm like, I call the president. I'm like, where are the offices in Cerritos? Where do I get an office? What do I do?
But you don't even need an office.
I mean, I pay for space.
Oh,
so because I obviously don't want my clients to come to my home,
right? I mean, your dad would probably like some company. He'd like company.
I don't want them to meet dad yet.
It's too soon.
Exactly. But, I remember just driving around calling all my contacts. And like you always say, the importance of networking. I have reached out to everybody, the top lawyers, the young lawyers, the older lawyers, the paralegals, everybody has helped me. And in that time driving around in my car, I remember people saying, oh my God, where do you get your malpractice? I called like 5 malpractice insurance because that's the first thing you got to do. And I just started shipping things away, and you would be surprised how many people just drop it, and they send you examples of the state bar corporate package, what they did. And everyone has been so kind. So my advice to everyone out there that is doubting themselves or wondering like, how am I going to do this? You'll just do it. Like you said, like Nike says, like just do it.
It's literally a thing.
It is literally
You're not going to sink and fall off the earth if you do it. It's impossible. That's not going to happen.
No, I thought to myself, if my firm this year, God forbid, just went and plummeted. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what?
But it's not going to.
That's what my dad said. You guys are the best. But
I don't ever want to hear those words come out of your mouth again.
But I just say to myself, the worst case scenario would be, okay, so you go apply to a firm and a million of them.
Or you retool.
Whatever. I'm not going to die.
No.
There's nothing to be scared of is my
experience.
Point. And like you said, there's going to be a bunch of roller coaster moments. Things are going to go crazy. Things are going to go great. Things are in the middle. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I think the happiness, because all of us are here to enjoy life and to live life. Instead of, like you said, sitting there, waking up.
Woe is me.
9 to 5.
I got to sacrifice now so I can enjoy later. That's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
It's called enjoy now, today.
The time is now.
The time is now. Shout out to Fab Cassie who coined that. The time is now. Get your goddamn estate in order. Yes. Period.
Yes.
I don't care how much money you have. You call Jen immediately. How can people contact you?
Everyone can contact me at my website. It's a little blurbs about what I do. So, and all my contact information's on there. It's jnakamuralaw.com. That's J-N for Nancy, A-K-A, M for Mary, U-R-A, law.com. My email is jlaw@jnakamuralaw.com. And my cell phone is 310-529-4245.
They could text you at that number. Say it again slowly.
310-529-4245.
And I mean, look at her. She's gorgeous. She's wearing hot pink. I want her to be my estate's lawyer. Okay. So seriously, everyone, please. And if it's not Jen, reach out to an estate's lawyer.
Absolutely.
You need this information. Just get it over with. You don't have to think about it again after. Maybe, I mean, if things change, you do a little bit, but don't worry about it. Get something in writing. Secure your future. Secure the future of your family. And Jen, I am so proud of you. Thank you. You're going onward and upward. And again, I've seen you come from that conversation. I remember telling you that. They're not your dad. I mean, because I say like it is.
You do.
And it's out of love. It was out of love.
You've never told me anything that was not true.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you.
Just a reflection of you. That's it.
And this judge, when I did my swearing in, he said, okay, counselor, now that you passed the bar, you got to figure out what you're going to do. And I am with you and that judge. Now I'm starting to see the bigger picture. And so, yes, everyone needs to go. Even if it's not me, I tell my clients, if it's not me, just get it done. Get your estate done.
Get it over with. Stop being a baby.
And it's not even just for when you pass away. So you have your healthcare directives and your power of attorney.
Yeah, what if you're in the hospital and you're incapacitated and you can't speak?
That's the thing.
You have it written down so nobody can unplug you.
That's what I had for my mom.
You see? These things matter.
It works. It does matter.
Pretty lawyers who know things. All right, Jen, I love you, friend.
Thank you for
being here.
Thank you.
Bye.